Hello and welcome to the oddschecker betting show. I am your host, George Elek, and I'm delighted to be joined by Andy Holding as we look ahead to the weekend's racing, and specifically the feature race of the weekend on Saturday is, of course, the Eclipse. Andy, how are you getting on? I know you've just told me that you probably won't be watching the Eclipse live, will you? Because you've got slightly even better tickets for the weekend.
Yeah, it's a real great sporting weekend, isn't it? We've got, obviously, the Ashes cricket. It'll be day 3 then, won't it?
Yeah.
It's nicely poised already this morning as we speak. A couple of wickets down.
Hope that doesn't age too badly.
No, exactly. Yeah. Small matter of Wimbledon. Hoping that Andy Murray gets through from a personal level. Yeah, because we'll be going down to Wimbledon on Saturday, and then obviously the racing as well. So eyes are going to be everywhere.
Yeah, it should be really, really good. Looking forward to seeing how Murray gets on this evening. Hopefully by the time people are listening to this, he's not out of Wimbledon already. And hopefully the England players can bounce back in the cricket. But this is a racing preview. We are going to be going through the cards, or at least the races that we can go through with prices on the oddschecker site at Sandown. And we'll have a quick look over the Lancashire Oaks and the Old Newton Cup as well at Haydock. So, and this is a Saturday tour, but focusing on, of course, the Eclipse. And Andy, the weather's been a bit unsettled over the last few days. We've seen some rain here around London, which is, of course, where Sandown is. Do we anticipate any change in terms of what we'll get from the going that we've had previously in the season?
No, it's going to be drying out all the time, I'd imagine. I think that's the last of the rain we've seen for the next 3 or 4 days anyway, at least looking at the long range forecast. Going to get quite hot temperatures, I think, in the London area. So Sandown's going to be drying out from the good to soft in places that we saw after that rain, as you've quite rightly pointed out the other day. Still a little bit of a concern if you're on a good to firm or fast ground horse, particularly on the round track. I think the round track will probably ride slower than that straight track. We're going to be dealing with at least one straight track race up the 5 furlong shoot at Sandown. I don't think that'd be too effective, but yeah, there might just be a little bit of ease still in the surface come Saturday.
Good stuff. Well, let's get into the racing now. And as ever, I'll be talking in reference to the best prices up on the oddschecker grids or on the app. So do make sure you do download the app where you can find the best prices, bookie offers, free bets, place terms, crucially, and of course, Andy's tips and other tipsters tips straight to the app every morning of racing. Good opener at Sandown on Saturday. The 150 is the sprint over 5 furlongs, where Marshman is the 11-2 favourite ahead of Equilateral at 6-1. Anaf also 6-1. Get Ahead is 7-1. Equality 8-1. Russell, Tiber Flow both 10-1. 14-1 bar those. Andy, how can you get us off the mark with a winner in the opener at Sandown on Saturday?
Yeah, hopefully. I don't think there's a huge amount between a lot of these horses here. They're all on their day capable of winning a race of this nature. A lot of them ran in the King Stand Stakes to various degrees of good and bad form, depending on where they were drawn either side of the track. The one who came out top was Anaf, but unfortunately with Arf and his supporters, he's going to bag stall 11 here at Sandown, which is not absolutely ideal. Now, crucially, I don't think necessarily you want to be racing from stall 1 all the way through this race, because in recent times that probably hasn't been that favourable, but there's been a little bit of a shift this season in comparison to others, i.e. horses that have plotted a course at the inside rail have been victorious. So it's not quite the dead rail that it was perhaps 18 months to 2 years ago. But I do think life is going to be quite difficult for Anaf to win from stall 11. The two are quite alike here, actually. A couple of the outsiders of the field, but I don't think they should be dismissed. They've very much been priced up, I think, on their ratings. But as I said, I think ratings completely go out the window when you're looking at sprint races at Sandown with the draw, etc., etc. The two fillies down at the bottom, the 2 I want to concentrate on. Makarova, who finished 4th, a good 4th at that as well, in a good race at Haydock a couple of runs ago, suggesting that she is very much worthy of listed stroke Group 3 class. She wasn't beaten too far. She was drawn on the wrong side of the track that day, so you'd certainly give her a little bit of a pass. Then she went to air next time out, absolute bolter, clocked a really fast time. The key to that performance was decent ground or fastest ground, plus the fact that Ed Walker's horses, from that moment onwards, and they're still in really good order as well. I think that's one of the reasons why Makarova hit the ball out of the park. She certainly comes here a little bit under the radar. She's 25-1, which looks an absolute ridiculous price. Can't understand why she's the outside of the field. I put her in there with one of the main contenders. And the other one is Lady Hamana, the only one of only 2 course and distance winners in the field. She had the first time cheek pieces on last time out, and I love the way she quickened up the aforementioned far side of the railing inside the final couple of furlongs. She looked as though she was in a bit of trouble 2 out, but once she got a bit of daylight, she really did pick up quite takingly. But I thought, a similar field to this, albeit at smaller numbers. So my strategy here is to play a couple against the field. I presume there'll be a few firms betting 4 places on Saturday. If we can get sort of 20, 25 to 1 Makarova and in and around the sort of 14, 16 to 1 mark, if you shop around for a Lady Hamana, one's drawn 1 and the other one's drawn 7. So not too badly done on the draw. So both of those 2 each way in the first race, I'd be mildly surprised if one of those doesn't at least give us a decent run for our money.
In Makarova, best price 25 to 1 as it stands at the moment. That's with Paddy Power and Betfair Sportsbook. A couple of firms have already gone 4 places. Hills and Betfred 14 to 1 with both of those, but we might see some other firms sticking their neck out in the next couple of, in the next 24 hours or so. Lady Hamana, best price 18 to 1. That's with Bet Victor. And the 2 firms paying 4 places. Betfred is 16 to 1, 14 to 1 about William Hill. So 2 against the field there for Andy in the first. Makarova and Lady Hamana. On to the challenge handicap over a mile on the round course, where we've got Indemnify is the 13 to 2 favourite ahead of Perotto at 7 to 1, Ouzo 8 to 1, Skeptic 10 to 1, Dutch Decoy 10 to 1, Silent Film is 12 to 1, Intelligent 14 to 1 with Spirit Catcher, and Maysong 16 to 1 bar those. Although Positive is one interesting priced up where you've got Paddy's and Betfair Sportsbook going 8 to 1, 16 to 1 their best price at Coral. How do you see this, Andy?
Again, a race that probably surrounds the draw. We've got 15 runners, and it depends where they end up racing down the home straight. Sometimes with a little bit of ease in the ground, they can migrate over towards the stand. So I'm not sure whether that'll take place or not, but I'd certainly be monitoring it anyway, one way or the other. Ouzo, definitely first name on the list. He ran 3rd in this race last year. He was a bit unlucky as well. He got trapped in behind a wall of horses, and Sinjari got first run on him. But once he got into a little bit of daylight, he picked up quite well. He's had a really good campaign so far this year, mostly out in the desert in Maydown, where he was always on the periphery of those big 7 furlong straight mile handicaps. And he did that as well from a series of bad draws. He was always seems to be posted out on the wing. He ran really well in the Royal Hunt Cup. That was his first run for a little while back, 17 days ago, when he finished 6th behind the very easy winner, Jimi Hendrix. Again, he was on the wrong side. But I thought he kept on really well. 6 of 30 runners in a competitive race of that nature suggests he's in great order. This, I think, is similar in with regard to class, but certainly numerically, it'll certainly make life a lot more easier for him. He's drawn nicely in Store 5. He's a previous course winner here at Sandown. He goes on any ground. I don't see any reason why he won't go well. 2 horses that ran well here at the last meeting. Lock-ons again, Dutch Decoy and Maysong. They were 1st and 2nd respectively. Now, Dutch Decoy came from a long way back the other day to finish 2nd. I've got a sneaky feeling that might well be the case again, because that horse has drawn 15 to 15. Had Charlie Johnson's horse been drawn any better than that, I think I probably would have made him an automatic choice to go on the list. So with that in mind, I'd probably stick Maysong up as my 2nd selection. Ran at Hamilton the other day, didn't get the clearest of runs, but once burst out into the clear, finished off very strongly, as it did when winning here 2 runs ago. Likes a stiff track, likes it here at Sandown, just remains in excellent heart despite a fairly industrious campaign, and probably still doesn't get the respect it deserves. So Maysong's definitely a backup choice, or an alternative to Ouzo, who looks a very solid pick down the front end of the market. Top price 8 to 1, doesn't look a bad show.
Yeah, top price 8 to 1 with Coral, and Labrix were 3 places, but you can get 15 to 2 and 5 places at William Hill, so that might be the way to play this if you're going to be betting each way. And Maysong 14 to 1 with Coral, and Bet Victor 12 to 1 elsewhere. So again, there for Andy, a couple against the field, and I'm sure as you look at the oddschecker grids over the next 24 hours or so, a few more firms will be sticking their neck out when it comes to place terms. Onto the distaff now, where Brige is the 5 to 2 favourite, with Coral and Labrix as short as 7 to 4 elsewhere. Stenton Glider 9 to 2, Magical Sunset 7 to 1, Bridestones 8 to 1, Black Sea Dar and Causey Beeler both 12 to 1, 16 to 1 bar. Andy, who do you fancy in the distaff?
Yeah, quite a weak race this. No real standout filly. You can understand why Breeze's favourite. She finishes a really creditable second, didn't she, to Coppice in effectively what was a listed stroke Group 3 race. I know it was a handicap in all but name, but you had some top quality fillies in that race that would and are likely to do just as well in Pattern Company further down the line. And her running the Guineas suggested that obviously Connections thought she was good enough to take part in that. She didn't run too badly, finished 7th of the 11 runners that day, beating 11 lengths. So she's certainly up to this level. She's just got a bit of a tricky draw to overcome, as I talked about. Not sure how Store 12 is going to pan out. If they race wide off the rail, that could be a good draw. And if they race around the inside and come up the far side rail in the straight, that could be a bad draw. So with that in mind, I'll probably go with Stenton Glider, slightly better, more fortuitously berthed in stall 10. Ran an excellent race in the German 1000 Guineas last time out. I'm not sure the standard of the winner that day. I must admit, I don't know much about Habana, but Habana won very easily. But given that Stenton Glider beat Dream to Love fairly comfortably, who finished third. Now, Dream to Love, I think, would be nearly favourite to win this, arguably, with the reputation that she's got. And to my eye, anyway, that German 1000 Guineas looked to be a very strongly run race. I like the way she hit the line. She was really strong inside the last furlong. You can go back and watch that race on YouTube, like I have. So I think this stiffer track will really play into the strength of Hugo Palmer's charge. I don't think this race is anywhere near the level of the German Guineas. We're talking obviously Group 1 level, Group 2 level. So this is a step down in grade. And I see it just if the equal, if not better than Breege. A quick word for Baxi Dar as well, the top one. I'm not sure whether she's quite the standard of this yet, but I was impressed with her when she won at Newbury. And she could easily be better than her mark of 87 suggests. She's quite a scopy filly. And Connections will obviously look at after a bit of black type with her. But Stenton Glider around about 9-2 looks a really, really solid each way bet if you can get 3 or 4, well, 4 places come Saturday.
Yeah, you can now as well, 4 places with Hills. So Stenton Glider 9-2 best price and best place terms 9-2 4 places. Andy's pick there in the distaff. On then to the feature race of the day, and we've got a 4-runner Eclipse. I think the last time we saw a 4-runner Eclipse was only 2 years ago when St Mark's Basilica won back in 2021. Classically, never big fields here, but normally a few more than 4. But it looks like a mouth-watering match bet nonetheless between Paddington, who is the 11-10 favourite, and Emily Upjohn, who is 5-4. A couple of firms disagreeing on that. Bet365, for example, Sky Bet, for example, have Emily Upjohn as the favourite going into this, but most firms having Paddington just a couple of ticks shorter. Dubai Honour is 11-1, and West Wind Blows 28-1. Andy, where do you think Paddington the right favourite at this stage?
Depends on which way you see it, really. I mean, a lot of people will obviously look at the weight for age and the improving 3-year-old and go with that. The stats say that is the generation that tends to dominate this race, but we are dealing with a very, very high-class filly, as we know, in the shape of Emily Upjohn, plus the fact that she's had a lighter campaign, very much trained with this race in mind, I suggest, by Connections. Obviously, the Coronation Stakes was the first port of call, which she took in pretty devastating fashion. She always looked in control that day and beat a really good field. I like the fact she's also won at this track as well, albeit a year or two ago. So, she's got to obviously rely on her memory bank to kind of reacquaint herself with the Esher slopes. But I think this stiff mile and a quarter really play into her hands. I'm hoping that West Wind Blows will probably make a reasonable pace, because that horse took the field along at Royal Ascot and finished a very creditable second. So there's no real reason why they wouldn't press forward again. And given that there's no obvious further front runner in the race, I think the best way, if you're a West Wind Blows set of connections, then you'd probably want to make plenty of use of that horse. So with that in mind, I think William Buke will have the licence to track West Wind Blows, and hopefully her stamina will be the key component in the straight, because we don't know whether Paddington will stay. I mean, he looks like he will. The theory is that he might even get further down the line, but as it is at the moment, I'd rather go with the proven horse over the C&D, who's got plenty of stamina and a touch of class as well, and has had a lighter campaign. So I'll be with Emily Upjohn in the Eclipse. Emily
Upjohn at 5-4. I mean, I always think with these, you can always get caught up in the top 2 in the market. Do we have to give credit or any chance to Dubai Honour or West Wind Blows here, or do you think this is a proper match between the 2 class horses in the race?
Yeah, I mean, they're both quality horses in their own right, but I think the other 2 definitely are a class apart. I think Emily Upjohn is the probably best of this generation at the moment, around a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, certainly on the evidence of what we've seen in the last 12 months or so. You know, like I said, that Coronation Stakes win was pretty devastating. And Paddington's easily the leading 3-year-old, isn't he?
Yeah.
We weren't sure about that prior to Ascot, but I think coming out of Ascot, I think he was more devastating than Tahira was when she won the Coronation. So yeah, it's a fascinating race between the two, and tactically it's going to be absorbing. It's a shame there is only 4 runners. I think the executives all, you know, sort of sugarcoat it as best as they can, but it you know, for a Group 1 race, you just don't want to be seeing a 4-runner field, do you? We haven't had a race like this for a while with such a small field, which is a bit of a damning indictment. But either way, it is what it is, and we've just got to enjoy the spectacle and hope it works out to be a decent race.
Yeah, indeed we do, and I'm sure it will be. Promises a lot, and looking forward to that on Saturday afternoon. We don't have any prices for the last 2 races on the card at Sandown on Saturday. We've got the 2 handicaps at a mile and 2 and 7 furlongs, and then the final mile 2 as well. Anything in those, Andy, this stage? No prices, but any in the tracker?
Yeah, there's a couple of horses that fought out a finish here last time out, which I think are worth looking at. Paddington and Lord Protector. Paddington came out on top over Brave Beckett's charge, but the time figure was really good for that race, and I've just monitored the forms subsequently. It's worked out pretty well. Well, it's worked out very well. I've put up 2 horses out of that race on my column subsequently. Youthful King won last week for me at Windsor, around about 6-1. Made all the running, and that horse finished 3rd. And Sweet Reward was a winner for me last night at Epsom. That horse finished 5th. So the time figure of that race at Sandown over the course and distance has been very much boosted. And I think it's quite significant that connections are rolling the dice here with Paddington, because Alan King's charge was in the John Smith's Cup for next week, and I'm not sure whether they think he's going to get in. I think he needs quite a few to drop out, because he's a little bit down the list, only rated 95. So they don't want to kind of like miss the boat 2 weeks running. So I think they're trying to crack on while they've got a chance of getting into a race. So Paddington and Lord Protector would be very much my 2 to consider in the 4:15. I've got no real opinion in the 4:50, but there's a nice horse of Gary Moore's running in the last race called Miller's Spirit. Now, he's running a couple of maiden races this season that have been of a very decent standard, and I don't think he's been fully wound up yet, fully tuned up. So I'd expect him big improvement on his first start in a handicap off a mark of 78. He's a horse that I've been keeping on the right side of, or want to keep on the right side of. So yeah, he's an interesting runner in the last. At a track that, of course, Gary Moore always seems to do traditionally well at, both over the jumps and on the flat. Yeah,
Miller Spirit, an interesting runner there. First time in a handicap. Never needs much persuading in my book there in the 5:25. And then 2 to take out of the 4:15, Lord Protector and Paradis. Over to Haydock quickly, where we've got the Lancashire Oaks to start with. The 2:40, this is the 3rd race on the card, where Mimi Q is the 11-8 favourite ahead of Sea Silk Road at 9-2. Aristia 6-1, Time Lock 17-2. Poptronic 14-1, Louisa Cassati 14-1, 16-1 bar those. Andy, any of you here?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with Sea Silk Road when she came from a long way back to win here last time out. Now, that was a step down from the race that she took part in first time out against Free Wind. She looked as though she needed the run as well on that occasion, but she was a lot more switched on and tuned up to what was required here 28 days ago. And yeah, I'm just really sticking to the tried and trusted formula of going with a course and distance last time out winner who turns up here in good shape. Now, again, I'm looking at like an each way price here. She's got a good draw. The yard seems to have just clicked into a bit of form as well. There's been 1 or 2 murmurings around social media and certain chat rooms that perhaps the William Haggas team haven't been in the greatest of form recently, but the tide seems to be turning. I did notice he had 3 or 4 winners in the last few days, so a little bit of an upturn there. So yeah, Sea Silk Road, okay, it's a good winner last time out. I don't think this race is that much difference, other than Mimikyu. Obviously, you've got to respect Mimikyu, again, another C&D winner taking a bit of a drop in grade, but I do like Haggas with his fillies. So yeah, she would do for me here.
Seasilk Road there, yeah, 9-2 across the board against the favourite Mimiku. All firms currently 3 places with 9 runners as it stands. And finally, the Old Newton Cup, which is a 3:15 at Haydock on Saturday. Layakel is the 5-1 favourite ahead of Sheer Rocks at 7-1. Camelomnibus is 15-2, Maxud 8-1, 11-1, Tomassus Fox 12-1, bar the rest. Skybet currently paying 6 places as it stands now. A couple of others are 5 places.
Yeah, this one's a choppy one. Whether I'll put anything up out of my column on this race, it remains to be seen. Yalakel has been a talking horse for the last sort of 12 months. I know it was favourite to win a race at the last meeting at York, and it didn't make the gig because of the ground, so they shouldn't have any complaints with regards to conditions. I think sometimes it's been a bit too firm for it, but shouldn't have that as a problem this weekend. But yeah, I quite like Coral-Eclipse, a horse that Charlie Fellows has done an incredibly good job with over the last 12 months. Seems to be improving at a rapid rate of knots. Very much a heart on his sleeve horse, off in front. But he just keeps battling. Every time that horses come at him, he just keeps finding and he turns them away. So I think he's got a really good heart. Whether he could do it again in a sort of big field again that he's used to running against, you couldn't be absolutely 100% sure, but he'll give it a good lash. And the other one that catches the eye, who ran in that race that Coral-Eclipse won last time out, was One Smooth Operator, very much named after you. I would have thought, George, I don't think there'll be any complaints about that. But he got an absolute horrible run through the other day behind Coral-Eclipse. Everywhere that Ben Robinson was looking for, the door kept getting slammed in his face. And he ended up finishing just behind the coattails of the main players with plenty of running left in his legs. He's drawn stall 18, which I think is a little bit of an inconvenience, but he is a holder horse anyway. So I suppose if he was drawn 1 or 18, it wouldn't make too much material difference with him. But he's another one to consider at a big price. But Coral-Eclipse, I like him. I like his attitude, and I'm just sticking to horses that we know operate at a certain track, and this horse definitely does. That long straight really suits him.
Cumulonimbus is 15-2. That's with Bet3. Sorry, that's with William Hill, who are 5 places, and One Smooth Operator 14-1 with the same firm Hills. Best price 5 places. Thank you very much to Andy for showing his thoughts ahead of Saturday's racing at Sandown and Haydock. Make sure you do download the oddschecker app, where you can find the best prices, book your offers, free bets, and Andy's tips straight to the app every single morning of racing. We'll hopefully be back next week with another oddschecker betting show, so make sure you subscribe to the oddschecker YouTube channel, where you can find all of these shows and Racing Weekly every Monday as well. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. Do enjoy the bumper weekend of sport, and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.